Welcome to Secrets from the Scene, a show for local musicians who want to improve their music, grow their audience, and learn about Minnesota's music scene. If you're interested in talking about all things music related and meeting interesting people from our local community, you're in the right place. Welcome to Secrets from the Scene. My name is Stephen Helvig, and I'm your host. Welcome back to all of our regular listeners. We really appreciate you. And if this is your first time joining us, I'm glad you're here. This podcast is all about helping the Minnesota music community through spotlighting and showing all the cool things that are happening here in the state, in the greater Twin Cities area, from producers like today's guest to all the fantastic artists, venue owners, and so many more. We want the podcast to be helpful and educational. So today's episode, we're going to talk about how do you best prepare for a recording session and how do you work with a producer. If you are in a band and maybe you've done a little bit of self-recording, or maybe you're trying to level up and you want to work with somebody that you're maybe a little intimidated about, or in a space that you're intimidated about, my guest today can help you prepare for that in the best way possible. It's Tony Williamette, the founder, owner, studio operator of Minnehaha Recording Studio in South Minneapolis. Tony's an excellent producer, engineer. He's been at it for a long time and a friend of mine, so I'm excited to have him today. Please welcome Tony Williamette.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I haven't said a whole lot about you, so please introduce a little bit more of yourself and your background.
Like you said, I run Minnehaha Recording Company. We do everything. I'm the owner, the engineer. I take out the trash, I shovel, I snowblow. It's absolutely everything. My wife bakes cookies for artists. It's like a very holistic life. I mow the lawn. Yeah, we've been here for 11 years. I've been making records for about 20 years. I realize right now I would be wrapping up my first quarter at IPR 20 years ago. So like right around now, like
wow.
going home and being like, yeah, this is what audio engineering is, and kind of learning what that is for the first time. So I guess I've been making records for 20 years. If you count, like, you know, putting an SM58 in front of friends' acoustic guitars in my mom's basement, you know,
That counts.
That's it. Yeah, cemented, man. 20 years, 2 decades, which is wild. And then so half of that's been at Minnehaha Recording Company. I'm Minnehaha in South Minneapolis, recording, mixing, mastering, always engineering. It's funny because you say producer, and I kind of wince. I'm like, I think I come from like the Steve Albini school of thought, where he's like engineer, not producer. And I have like in my business card, my signature line, owner/engineer. And I've never really billed myself as like producer, which is like, you're very much a producer.
Yes.
You are a producer.
I'm a producer. I would wince at being an engineer.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And
I'm like, barely.
Isn't that funny? And bands always ask me like, oh, what level of production do you get into? 'Cause some bands, they're just like ready to go. All I need to do is press record, right? And they're awesome. They're so well prepared. And I'm always like, well, I'm always engineering. I'm usually co-producing with the artist is how I like to figure it.
Yeah.
And explain it. And then sometimes the artist just gives me a lot of bandwidth to do stuff. And I'm like, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this, let's bring in this dude, let's bring in this woman. Some people give me a lot of latitude, like for better or worse. And I've gotten more confident with that in the last few years, where I'm like, oh, actually, I can play bass. I'll play bass on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas like 7 years ago, it's like, no way in hell. Like, I'm not, no. And I would just press record, and I was kind of just this robot, you know. But even when I'm mixing, you find yourself you're doing production stuff. Like mixing is producing in so many ways.
Yeah. Part of why I just was like threw producer out there, because I actually kind of knew that about you, because I think we've had that conversation before. But is that there's such a wide definition for producer.
Yes.
And I feel like it's better to have to put it in than to leave it out for most people.
I think so too. It translates better to the general public.
It's just so widely used at this point that you could really kind of count anybody as a producer or co-producer to some extent. So, you know, why not?
It's a weird world though, where like in the hip hop community, producers are the beat makers.
Correct.
And I was very much just like hip hop engineer. If I work on a hip hop session, I'm an engineer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until you're like cutting the 2-track YouTube beat and reversing it and high pass filtering it and doing things like that, then you're like producing all of a sudden. It's funny, I still wince at the blanket term of producer, because it means everything and nothing, you know?
Yeah.
It's like in a movie, it's like the executive producer, you know?
But if you think about the original origins of producer, where it might just be somebody that's like practically a manager of the sessions.
Yeah, right.
know?
Or throwing money at it.
Yeah, exactly.
right? Like a label thing. So it's goofy, but it's like what I would think producer, when we're talking about like popular music and bands, you're thinking like vocal production, layering, doing things like that. And so I'm never the guy that would be like, dude, we need to rewrite the bridge. Like I would never touch lyrics. I'm not that kind of producer. I will suggest things like that open G chord sounds terrible. Like, can you play a bar chord version of that or a power chord version of that? I'll do things like that. Very rarely would I ever step on arrangement stuff for like chords or anything like that.
And that's a part of my everyday process.
That's what I figured. So that's that's right. We draw the line, but then so much of our everyday is exactly the same, I'm sure, right?
But I will not solder a cable. I will not fix anything. I will hire
that's
everything
hilarious.
out.
That's hilarious. See, I barely want to do that. I barely want to do that stuff, but I have just enough aptitude to do that stuff.
No, I don't.
Is it that?
I'm sure I could figure it out, but no, not interested.
Well, we have this weird Venn diagram of like, we're kind of okay at running a business. We're kind of okay at engineering. We're kind of okay at interacting with other humans. And it kind of just works out just enough for us to stay afloat in this industry. Do you think about stuff like that?
I do think that and we'll get into this later in the conversation, but as studio owner, like you said right away, you do a little bit of everything, and you have to be kind of good enough at everything. Because it's like, I won't repair something, for instance, but I can set up systems and I can troubleshoot things like an engineer, you know, like whether that's...
You've just never seen a Phillips screwdriver in your life.
Oh, come on, I can do that. But I wouldn't dare take apart a preamp, you know? And again, I could probably sort it out, but it's not where I want to put my energy. You know, I just like, no.
It's interesting because it's like, what's your time worth? But it's also like, where are your interests? And like,
I think that's more of what it's about.
We're kind of good at like what we're interested in. Like, so I would take apart a preamp and like poke around and then spend way too much time on some forums about it and then bring it to a guy that knows what he's doing. That would be my workflow. But then I would have learned like 40% of what it would actually take to repair it without ruining it and without like setting myself back 8 hours, right?
And I'll spend a ton of time thinking about the best layout for the patch bay and how it should be wired.
I like that stuff.
I won't necessarily do the wiring, but designing it and thinking about the most optimal setup, I'll do that for sure.
I think you and I start to geek out about that stuff. Yeah. With like optimizing systems.
Yes. That I'm very interested in.
We would have been project managers. Great project. If we had joined the corporate world, we would have been great project managers.
Yeah.
So interesting. Yeah. So that's my like homespun wisdom about producer. I was like, don't have enough self-esteem to call myself a producer, but if I added it to my signature line, I'd probably make like $150 more a year. You know.
I think you can. I think you safely can.
Okay.
I think no matter where you land in that spectrum, whether you're songwriting for people, you know, all the way up to there and doing full track production, or just lightly making, you know, some suggestions, more than likely at some level you're at least co-producing.
Totally.
And I even tell that to artists a lot of times too that I'll work with, that, you know, if the question ever comes up of like, how should I credit this? It's like, you know, this is how I would prefer it. But I'm always wide open of like, if you want to credit yourself as a producer, I pretty much think any artist could.
These days,
I think they could.
Just the act of like getting to the studio with a song.
Then you had to self-produce.
It's half the deal. Yeah. It's a great point. And that's why I always say I'm co-producing. And I always tell you like, these artists, you can tell me to F off. I might suggest things in the second chorus of the song or the third chorus, the outro. You can always tell me to F off. It's your song. It's your baby.
Yes.
So I would never want to overstep that.
Yeah. And I'm very clear about that too, that, you know, ultimately you're in control. Do whatever you want to do. You're paying for it. You know, I'm here to facilitate hopefully I understand what they're trying to do in the first place, so that I'm actually, you know, I'm not just following my own compass. I'm following theirs. But, you know, every now and then you just have to, there's going to be some push and pull. Mm-hmm. And I think, in fact, some of the best collaborations somebody should be pushing one way and somebody should be pulling the other to kind of test the boundaries, to find out, well, have you thought this way before? You know, and vice versa.
Right.
So that you creatively find some interesting areas, hopefully.
I think by the time we're both like kind of 20 years into this thing, like right about there, right? Like it seems like the universe has sanded itself down enough where we're kind of aligned with people with similar sensibilities, and they end up in our studios, our respective studios.
Probably.
Yeah. In a cool way, where it's like I take a step back. I'm like, these are like my friends. Like we get together with our kids at parks and stuff. Like these aren't just like nameless artists that hit the contact form on my website. Maybe it started that way. And we talked kind of a little bit offline about like cold calls and that stuff and how you handle it. But some of these people are like my best friends now. Yeah. And it's pretty cool. And we're like going to shows together and that sort of thing. Whereas I'm sure you've gotten this the same way across on the other side of town here, the west suburbs. Yep. You've gotten to a similar place.
Oh, absolutely. I have clients that I've worked with now for 10 years. Yeah. Then we've had such a relationship. And friends and it's lovely. And I think that's a huge part of also being a good producer and studio owner is the relationships. That long-term growth is everything. All right, but we're going to get to all this. Let's kind of start at the beginning a little bit. I want to first talk about just an artist's mindset before walking into the studio. Ultimately, like how you know when you're ready to even get there. So I think the first question I want to ask you is when you notice an artist is unprepared, what's the first thing you notice?
I want to have that phone call or email or studio meeting with them first, which is like I always encourage studio tours. I want to meet these people too. Yeah. I want it to be a good fit, like sonically and just like personnel. I want demos. There's no excuses for no demos these days. Like it's literally just iPhone voice memo. Send it to me. I don't care about quality. Like I just want to hear chords and vocal melody. Yeah. Don't even care about lyrics really. I'm just like, I just want to hear this and see what's together. And then just kind of come up with a plan together. Like usually people won't end up in our studio unless they are ready. Because it's like we charge money, we're here and they don't want to waste anyone's time. We've ended up there, with like random hip hop stuff where you got dudes like writing verses, standing up on a clipboard, and you're like, I don't know if we should be doing this, but this is how you want to use your studio time. It's been a while since I've been in that world, but we've definitely had that. And then some stuff's just like not ready until it's here. Like you're not ready until you're in it. And that might be like, I don't know the solo. I don't know the solo for this song, but it'll come to me, just press record. We'll rip it a couple times. Or I don't quite know how I want the outro to sound, but let me work it out in real time with the band. And if they're good players, they can work it out pretty quick together. I cut a song last night for a band. We didn't really know what was going on, but again, I was given a lot of latitude I was like, let's just triple these guitars and let's do a fourth layer of these guitars here at different types of tones. And it's like, we really were all figuring out in real time what the song needed to be. I love that. Like, that's the best.
Well, I think that's what's a little bit confusing because I think that there's a great place for experimentation and creativity when you're in the studio to leave some space, right? I want to wait and see how this comes together rather than having every detail planned out.
Right.
But that's a big gray area of how much do you need to have ready and what can you leave without going, oh crap, I didn't actually finish the bridge and now I'm stuck.
I have a studio prep document. Do you know about this?
No, I don't.
It's a PDF. It's on my website. I'll link you to. You can share it with
we'll share it with
listeners.
The audience. Yeah,
I have one for hip hop clients. This goes back to systems. I think I made this document in 2010, and I've revised it a couple times. But I have one for bands, one for hip hop artists, because it goes over like instrumentals. What do you have for instrumentals? Are there multi-tracks? Are there stems? Are we dealing with a YouTube MP3 for hip hop stuff? And then the band thing is like thorough. It goes over like get new strings, replace your drum heads, clean the neck of your guitar, make sure your pedals aren't noisy, bring a bunch of guitar picks, bring extra string. It goes over everything. Sure. What are you using? What are the size of your drums? I want to know how many toms the drummer's using, right? So I can prep a mic list. Like you've been in that position, right? Where that kind of makes or breaks, like a preamp choice, a compressor choice, an I/O thing, all that stuff. I just want to be as prepared as possible. I want demos. I want to know, when are you playing? When have you played recently? Do you have any videos? And I'll do like a deep dive on the artist before they come in. If they have any videos from like the White Squirrel from last November, things like that, everything will inform. I'll be like, oh, bass player's left-handed. He plays through a really nice stack. Just little things like that. You'll just take note, right? All the context helps. Because I'm going to be fully enveloped in this project for X amount of weeks or the weekend or months or a number of years in some cases, right? So this studio prep document, I need to make an interactive version of it where people can fill it out in real time. But I want band members' names. I want to know what they're playing, what gear. So a guitar, what pedals, what amplifier, all that stuff I ask in the studio prep document. If they can fill that out with some aptitude, we're ready. We're good.
Sure.
And sometimes you're just like, they barely tried. And sometimes you're like, this is awesome. I got one. I cut a record last weekend with a great band, Sucker Center. If you're listening, you guys are awesome. I think I got like a 14-page document. It was, it was like basically the first 3 pages answered all my stuff. And then it was chords and lyrics for each song.
Oh, sure.
Like, this is it. This is
Nice.
awesome. That's the stuff you want, right?
Yeah.
That's the best kind of client, the best artist to work with. These guys are taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And it's like they're early 50s, this first time being in the studio. They killed it. They should have been making records for the last 20 years. I don't know why they haven't.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing.
I would say my version of that is just in our, before we allow you to book, kind of pre-vetting process.
Yeah.
Whether that's a in-person tour or a phone call, and just getting a sense of. But demos are the huge part.
I bet you have something. Do you have a template, an email template, a form?
No, I just do it. I just do it through conversation.
Really?
Because,
Okay.
And it's partially because of how my process works. So as long as I have a demo and I know what I'm dealing with, then it just comes down to more prepared. I probably end up doing less work.
Mm-hmm.
Less prepared, I do more work. And so it's just, I kind of know where I'm in, like, meaning that if this client has the song, the main thing is I need to know that there is an idea for a song, or enough of an idea for a song. And I need to know what their expectations are. And then from there, I can prepare, like, okay, that means I know where this artist is at. I'm going to do most everything on this track.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to sing it. And I'm going to help them finish it,
Right.
Maybe that's the case. Or I heard this band is here. I'm going to be just producing as we go. I don't have to worry about arrangements, things like that. I can do, little fixing as we go, but it's pretty much there. In terms of equipment and gear, I'm not really worried about it. I usually encourage most of the bands to use what's in-house. Bring your own instruments, but, use our kit as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And if people want to do that, then I will have a conversation about, okay, well, what are you bringing in then?
Right.
Then I'll get that information. But a lot of times we're using what's in-house and only supplementing if we need to. And so the process becomes very repeatable in that sense. And so if somebody is, let's say, less prepared, I know that, okay, well, I'm going to write more of it then. And that's fine with me. Like, that's might be why they're hiring me, because that's where they got stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how to do these other things. I need your help. And then through that process, they learn. And then the next one, they're a little bit more prepared, a little bit more prepared. So that's just kind of built into how I do things, I guess.
Yeah, see, that's dangerous for me, though, because I won't delve into the songwriting part of it. So if someone's less prepared, I will either tell them to get more prepared or go into it with like some degree of heavy manufacturing, being like, we need to break this down piece by piece and see what's going on and kind of hold their hand through it. But by the time they get out of that process, no one wants to return there. Or I'll give it to one of our other producer engineers in-house and be like, you're more steeped in songwriting day to day. Why don't you take this one? I think you'd be really good at this. Mm-hmm. And just make sure they have everything they need to get going on it.
Totally.
Because we have folks on our team that they can just hear a vocal melody on an iPhone and be like, yeah, I'll put an arrangement together around it. And that blows my mind. I'd rather be mixing records. I do not want to be doing that stuff, but it just goes back to like your interests. Like, I'm interested in gear.
Yeah.
But we also have we have it templated out a bit. Like, we have a nice DW house kit. Like, you've got this nice house kit. You're not going to have to beat it up too much to get it to sound good. That's our kit too. Yeah. If people want to bring in their own gear, I always welcome that, because part of it is like your gear, no matter the quality, is kind of the sound of your band. You playing your songs through these things. But it's like we get the same stuff. They're going to want to use our DW house kit. They're going to want to use our twin reverb. We get those all the time. They're like, I'm actually looking at that. And then I'll be like, well, twin reverb doesn't break up at all. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. So you kind of have that conversation with them when they're in here. But I love that stuff. Mm-hmm. I think that's what makes me an engineer. It's like, I love having those conversations. And I like gear. So it's like, it gives me an opening to be like, oh, I see you got this pedal. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. My interests are more on the arrangement and the production than the gear. I kind of want to get the gear out of the way as quick as possible, which is why I'm like, let's use the stuff that's tried and true and works. Because the tiny difference that's going to happen between this and this isn't as big as the difference we're going to make in the arrangement.
Right.
And so I'll go as far down the gear path as the client wants, but I won't encourage going down the gear path unless there's a problem.
Right.
Like, I want to get the gear working as quickly as possible and then focus on the music.
Right. So more variables. If they're bringing in other stuff, you're like, how does this work? What is this? How does this sound? Is the speaker weird? You just know your stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm quick to be like, let's go DI.
Mm-hmm. We'll deal with it later. Yeah.
Let's go DI, and I'll pull up amp sims or a reamp. Like, don't care.
Yeah.
Like, like I'll figure that out later because it's easier. Then you're going to bring in 5 amps and then we're going to test them all, like,
Yeah, see,
no,
but
let's
in
not
part
do
of that, though, these bands that have it together and say it's like a noise rock band or a post-punk band or something, they want to go through, this is why they spend their time on these forums talking about this pedal and these pickups and these amps.
Yes.
They want to go through that process. That's why they're coming to me. They know, like, oh, here's a guy that has a bunch of gear. This is going to be fun.
Yep.
And we can shoot out some stuff. We can do that. So that turns into part of the experience.
Agreed.
And these are guys guys and women that love talking about the nuances of pieces of gear.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, this would be great for the rhythm guitars, but when we do solos, we'll come into the Marshall. Things like that make my life exciting.
Yep.
We love it, they love it, and it's actually like informative. But yeah, I try not to get too steeped into like the forum madness of things and just be like, what does things actually sound like today in this room for this song? And if it's not working, can we move on? And I do have my quick fixes of like, don't worry, everyone, this will work. Let me do this. Let's keep the session moving.
Yeah.
So I know that feeling of like getting steeped in tubes and pots and stuff like that during it. You just want to keep things moving.
Yeah. I just like to do the deep dive on the software more so than on the hardware.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing of like, well, let's find a new sim for this, because we have 100 options here versus however many we could fit in this room.
That's scary to me. That is the hall of amps, the endless hall of amps that is soft amps, where I would go, I'm just never leaving my room. Then I'm just going to keep clicking next.
Well, but it's the same thing where you just have to know the stuff that works. And I think the more you do it, the easier it is actually to navigate, because I'm quicker to just be like, yeah, this works. Mm-hmm. I don't need to hear them all. As soon as we all land on like, this sounds great. All right, we're done.
It's not like a food court at a mall that just keeps turning to the right and you keep going down that food court and you're really hungry and you can't decide.
No, I love it. I love it because when bands are comfortable with that, because some people want to be hardware. Like we've got a band in tomorrow that's going to be all hardware. They're bringing in amps. We're doing it analog, everything. We won't use it.
Brother.
But for everybody else that's on board with Sims, they're just like, we just want it to sound good and we want it to be efficient.
But you get that DI from that band too. You get that DI.
Yeah. Then I can pull up tones right away quickly, and it's like, okay, does this sound great? Yes. Everybody's like, yep, love it. And then later on, if it's like, what would it sound like if we did this and this and this, then it's so easy, know, and we get to do that. And I, a number of years ago, the last holdout actually for me with going to Sims was clean. I thought, yeah, but the clean amps just don't sound as good through Sims. Like all the distortion stuff, I'm like, sounds great. Arguably sounds better.
And you got there with the
But
clean.
for clean, I was like, yeah, but it's hard to beat the Fender Twin. Just clean sound and have it sound like a real amp. And yeah, then I did an A/B thing because I can reamp through here, and we tracked DI with the Sim because we wanted, that was partially for isolation reasons. We just didn't want the amp leading in with the drums. And then we got the performances, and when we reamped through the Twin, we were like, can't tell.
Yeah.
Can't tell.
It's whatever works, whatever keeps the session going. It keeps everyone inspired. Right?
Agreed. And I think the people that love the gear, they need it. And that's kind of like our client tomorrow. Like, the gear is important.
There's a lot of
It's
that where
fun.
they're like, I've been obsessing. I've been on Sweetwater for the last 6 years of my life, and I finally pulled the trigger on this thing. And this is why I bring it here. It's not for the bedroom. I bring it for the studio because there's gonna be a mic on it. I'm going to hear the minutia, but I can read the room and keep the session moving enough to be like, we just need to press record at some point, everyone. Yeah. So let's do that.
And that's
I have a DI. And we've got a couple mics on your cabinet. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Okay, getting back to sort of the prep thing, you've got your huge checklist, so that pretty much checks off everything. What about references? Do you use any sort of like, hey, we want it to sound like this?
Yeah, that's on the studio prep document. What are some artists you're inspired by right now?
Right.
And sometimes I'll even ask, like, if I'm on the phone with them, I take a lot of my phone calls shooting hoops in the summer. Like, I talk to you shooting hoops in the parking lot of the studio. It's like my daily meditation yoga, right? Except I'm on the phone. And I'll just be like, what are you listening to lately? Like, not even what does this record need to sound like? What are you listening to? What are you inspired by? So we're kind of speaking the same sonic language from the beginning, So like, I'm listening to like Lou Reed solo records. Like I just want to know where their head's at with things. Like where are they listening to Casey Musgraves? Like what's going on?
Yeah.
Just to kind of get calibrated and put us in the same headspace by the time, if we've never met especially. And then people I've made records with in the past, I'll talk to, what are you into right now? What's going on? What should I be listening to? What do you want to do with this record? So yeah, references are huge. And then references are huge when I'm making records too.
Very much.
I use mix references, mastering references. I tell people this all the time during our recording workshops. I get CDs from the library and I rip them to my computer. So I have high quality WAV files. Mm-hmm. Where do you get WAV files?
They're hard to come by now.
Of commercial releases.
Yeah.
They're very hard. Yeah. So it's because it's streaming, or you can get the Apple files.
I just gave up on getting WAV files.
When you listen to
high quality MP3.
Are you using like Metric AB? Do you know they use that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I bring WAV files into my Pro Tools sessions.
Yeah, I
love just being able to like really quick jump.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Metric AB is real quick.
It's that,
too,
yeah.
I went to great lengths to try to keep everything, and I still have like my go-to references are WAV files that I just got off of CDs, and then I just was like, is it really going to change if I just pull an MP3 out?
Well, not all MP3s are created equal,
of course.
Which this goes into like the geekiness stuff, and I'm not Bob Katz here talking about sample rates. I'm not that guy. I can't hear the difference between 44 and 48. I'm not going to pretend to. So like, it's like I will open the preamp, but I will not be swapping resistors or caps on it.
Yeah.
Not all MP3s are created equal, because I'll see the high shelf or the low pass filter cut at like 12K, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, right.
I'll actually see it, and then I'll try to get like the official artist YouTube and rip that to MP3. I'll do that often because that's usually the best encoded. Mm-hmm. But then some are like encoded like 4 times. Like how did it get to YouTube? And if you see the video, the aspect ratio is like 4:3. You're like, this is old. This is an 06 YouTube rip. This is not going to sound good. So yeah, I'm literally on the library website every day, like just seeing what new releases they have. And going, I'll reserve that. And then I'll go pick up a bunch and I rip them to my computer, like an external hard drive. I drag them over. It's like each CD is like half a gig, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But then I have it sorted. I've got a pretty good library as of like the last couple of years here.
Well, now streaming services are offering some lossless stuff too, so that'll get easier.
I still like having that in my session.
But I want it in the plugin, so that is the problem.
Right. Well, I mean, Metric AB will connect to Spotify soon, or does it yet?
I don't think it does. Well, if it does, I don't know how to do it.
The day is young. Yeah. I'm sure. Right.
But yeah, exactly. I'm sure there's a way to do it eventually.
But you're right, lossless, and it's just like the ease of use of having these files around.
Yeah.
It's cool. Being able to like manipulate them and stuff.
It is. I think that the reference thing, I wholeheartedly agree. I would say it's like the number 2. Like the number 1 thing is, have you made a demo? Doesn't have to be good quality, but you need to have done the whole thing through. I need to know that you've thought about everything. And it's fine if you're like, yeah, and I don't know what I'm quite doing here. I'd like to finish that when we get a little further in. Okay. That's okay. Because a lot of times these happen over multiple sessions. You don't have to have it all sorted out, but we need to have a general direction. And then I want to have references of, I think I don't explicitly ask abstractly, like, what are you listening to? I do. It's like, what do you want this to sound like? What are you inspired by? Mm-hmm. But I often tend to get a little bit of that, where I will see like, okay, this one's not you. We're not going to make it sound like this.
Yeah, you'll go,
but you like this.
How am I going to make this work? And it's like, oh no, you were actually just listening to this on the way to here.
Yeah, they're just really into it. That tends to make some of those playlists a lot of times. And that's fine. That's fine, because it kind of tells me a little bit of the outlier kind of thing of like, okay, if there's a touch of this, that's okay.
It informs their universe at the very least, right?
Yep. So I think that's really helpful. And I actually was having a call earlier, I guess it was probably over the fall, with an old friend who recorded here, and he's going to do a solo project. And I had kind of talked to him, last time he recorded here was 10 plus years ago probably. And it's like, do you have some references? And that's really, really helped him kind of think through his solo project. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't done that, I really encourage artists to do that. Like, think about it as your color palette of where you want to stay. It can help you make some decisions and rule some things out.
I also think it's a sort of, for us on the receiving end of this stuff, a litmus test of like, how much do you give a shit? Like, because have you ever been in the room where you're the one that cares the most about the song? You're like, does this guy actually like this song? Because he hasn't thought about it. He didn't give me any of the studio prep. And here we are with a microphone in front of his acoustic guitar. I've had that feeling with some hip hop stuff years ago. It's been a long time. I've been fortunate where it's been like, do they actually care about this? Because I'm spending way more time and energy on this than they are. I have more buy-in, and that's not a great feeling.
I haven't necessarily had it where I feel like I care more. The thing that came to mind more so when you said that was where I feel like they don't understand what their song is. And in that, what they sent me doesn't align with what I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. This demo is written in a certain style, and you want to sound like this artist, but underlying this thing is never going to sound like this because the song's not that way.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense. We could mix it this way and whatever, but it'd just be bad.
Yeah, it's not what the song wants to be or needs to be, and you're kind of disservice to like the bones of this song.
What is the song asking to be? What does it need to be? And to some extent, you can twist and contort and change it to be certain things, but the songwriting has to kind of make sense for the genre that you're going for. Most often, like a really typical example is, there's a singer-songwriter, maybe it's a high school girl or a college student or something early in their career, and they send you something, and then they're like, and I want it to sound like Sabrina Carpenter. And you're like, yeah, but you're not writing songs like that. Mm-hmm. Like, this sounds more like a singer-songwriter, not a pop track.
Yeah, your songs are 60 BPM, and there's an acoustic guitar.
Yeah. It's like, and just structurally and melodically, it's like, okay, you want it to sound pop, but like if we did that to your song, it'll sound like a bad pop song. Whereas if we just produced it more like a acoustic singer-songwriter thing, it'll actually sound like a good song, right. And having some of those conversations, I think, are a really important part of getting aligned before, that's sort of part of my prep checklist of like that pre-production conversations of like, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe that's not this one. Maybe it's your next one. Maybe you need to learn a few more things before we get to that thing. What other demos do you have? Maybe we should start with a different song, all of that to get aligned. Other conversations that I think are really, really important before you go into the studio are things like budget and timeline, as well as that direction too, because they all kind of go together of like, well, okay, you want to do that, but that's hard. You need to, that involves a writing session, and that involves full track production. We can't do that with what you're bringing to the table. We're going to have to bring in other people and all that kind of stuff, and making sure all the expectations are aligned so that they don't start a session thinking that I'm going to get this thing done in 4 hours.
Right.
It's like, no, not this one.
I think we've been through it enough early on in our careers where we both kind of end up here sitting with an artist that thinks they maybe came in and they were going to finish this song. And in the back of our heads, we're like, there's like 4 more sessions left of this kind of thing to get this thing even ready to mix,
Exactly.
So like managing expectations, just kind of getting aligned on all that stuff. It's like, we've made mistakes younger.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have. I definitely did on some of that stuff where it was like we got too far in. But it's like also like my rates were cheap and I was willing to do whatever and just like work my ass off to get it across the fence,
Yeah. Oh, and I've done that more times than I can count. But I think from an artist standpoint, if you're like, okay, I'm going to go into the studio thinking about what your goals are and what you want it to sound like at the end, and making sure you communicate that is really important, and what your budget is and how long you think it's going to take, and trying to make sure you're on the same page so that you don't end with frustration or have some half-finished project or whatever. Sometimes where what you want and what you're able to do, maybe for budgetary reasons or whatever, aren't going to align. And being honest about that will help, because how many times, somebody comes to you and wants to do a project and it might be like, maybe we should cut that down. Like, your budget is here. Let's do either, you have options. We could do that live and we can do it quicker, but then your expectations should be for this kind of sound. Or if you want it to sound very polished and produced, let's maybe just do 2 songs for that budget.
Right, yeah. Lower the number of songs or shrink the scope.
Yeah.
Which is like that live version of things. Yeah, there's definitely some of that in there. I think getting ahead of budget and timeline stuff is huge because we're busy. It's like, we can't finish it this week. I know you're excited about it because you woke up this morning and your acoustic guitar sounded good, but we can't finish it this week.
Yeah.
It's an iterative process where we're going to be spending time on it, coming back on it with fresh ears, making sure we still like things.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's assume that people have covered all these steps. We've talked a lot about, all the things you can think about and should prepare before the studio. But now they're in the studio, they sit down, and they're clearly nervous. They're clearly just intimidated and worried, and things aren't going well. The performances aren't quite landing. What are your sort of tips and tricks for getting the best performances, whether that means calming people down or just instilling confidence? What have you dealt with? What have you seen? What helps?
I think just trying to lower the stakes. Like I had a vocal session yesterday where the young girl she's young. She was 16 and she was anxious about it. It's her first time in studio and she had a great voice, but she didn't know how to use it. I couldn't quite pull it out. I'm like, hey, the first couple of takes here, I'm just going to be setting levels. Just setting my levels, getting some EQ, getting some compression right, and getting her loose on it. And it was like the kind of studio experience where you've never even heard yourself in headphones. That's the position she was in. And we've all been there where it's like, this is not great. It's stilted and weird and you're in your own head. You're not going to perform well. And through that was just like lowering the pressure. We have so much time. You're really great. We had that on our side that she was really great. Like, we're going to take a bunch of takes. We're going to comp this thing together. We'll tune it a little bit if you want. It's going to sound awesome. Trust me. And you just kind of have to shepherd them through that process. It looks a little different for every individual. It's not the same for like the 75-year-old guy that's playing acoustic guitar and he's a little anxious about it. It's like, hey, let's take a break. Strum it around a little bit. Beat the guitar up. Get it into tune. Let's spend some time on it. Let's talk. What are you doing? What do you do for a living? Do you have a family? All that stuff. I want some context around your life and like how you ended up here. And that stuff usually softens the landing into the studio the first time.
Yeah.
And it starts by like a primer of like, come by for a studio tour. Let's all make sure this is a good fit, right? I think that helps. Like, then the second time they're here to really make a record, they know where to park. They know how to get in. There's little soft things like that go a long way.
Yeah.
Look at me. I rolled in here. I didn't know how to get here. I was confused. And I hadn't been here in like 5-6 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And there's little things like that. Hey, want water, want tea, want coffee. We're just hanging out. And you just kind of set that tempo from the beginning. And there's a way to be way too intense about that. And there's a way to just relax into it and let the song come to you. It's like, I was just kind of, at the end of the day, we're all just people in a room making music together. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
You can only be like armchair psychologists so much, but
yeah,
in general, we get to where we need to be,
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. That's all things that we also do. And I highly recommend for everybody. But I'll just add to it maybe that, if you're like, yes, but I still get nervous. I can't, part of that is you just have to get through it. Like, stage fright doesn't just go away no matter what you do. Sometimes it's just going to be there. And sometimes it's just accepting it and do another session. Do another session. Keep showing up. It will wear off.
This might be the nervous record too. You might have to make the nervous record to make the not nervous record.
Exactly.
The nervous EP. Call it what you want.
You can't hold too tightly to that thing. I know you want to make a hit and I know you want to do the best possible thing, but if you hold so tightly to it, you can also kill it. You have to be okay with growth, with understanding that this one's going to turn out how this one turns out, and I'll keep making music.
Right.
The next one can get better and the next one can get better, because to some extent you just have to get started. And more than likely the first thing that you make, this client of yours, the 16-year-old, she didn't make her best song probably. As long as she keeps writing, she's going to make way better and way better and way better.
I always say that, like, hopefully this is the worst.
Yeah.
And it's just up and up from there. And like, she did her first or second vocal take. I said, this is the worst you're ever going to sound today, because we're going to make it sound better, like through technology, right? And through gear and through some compression and stuff. And you're just getting more confident. You're singing more boldly. You know the song better. Everything's getting better. Everything's like kind of ironing out and smoothing into place. It's like, it's just getting like those reps on stage. Think about how nervous you were when you played your first show.
Totally.
And it's like, you suck. Like, if you saw a video of yourself playing guitar on stage from like 2004, you'd cringe, right? But you just have to get through that. And then you see these musicians that they play 80 dates a year or whatever it is, and they're masterful, holding their guitar. There's no fret buzz. They're not even known as good guitar players, let's say, but they work the mic really well. There's no fret buzz. Their banter's great. They get through everything so gracefully because they've got so many hours repped on stage. It's insane. And it's the same thing for the studio. It's the same type of muscles.
Yep. It's just, you put in the hours, just keep at it. Don't worry about it and don't hold too tightly. It's okay. You'll get better. Keep going. And know that the people, hopefully, obviously with the case of Tony and myself, but I think a lot of the other studio guys in town share the same mindset, which is, they're not judging you. They're there to help. They're not going to go tell like, oh, this person was so terrible or whatever, like we see all kinds of stuff, and we work with all different ranges of talent, from people that blow us away to people that we're helping and educating. That's part of our roles, and we want to see you succeed. And it doesn't matter if it's a hit or not a hit or whatever. Like, understand that and be okay with it. Be vulnerable and do your best work, and then just keep showing up.
It's funny because you don't want to come off as dispassionate, like we care about these songs. Like how much into a song do you get where you're like, I live and breathe this thing, and like before I'm going to bed, I was thinking about the verse 2 lyrics, like they're stuck in my head, or riding my motorcycle, I can't help but have the chorus in my head. It's hard. You don't want to come off as dispassionate because you love this stuff, but at some point, you are that doctor with some bedside manner. You're like, I see it all. I see everything. So no matter how bad this is, we're going to get through it, and it's fine. And there's really no judgment there.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes too, you'll be surprised at what you think is good and what you think is bad and how well things can get received. But, there's something for everybody out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I, from a creative perspective or performance perspective, it's just like, yeah, okay, we're going to get it above line. Like, this is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And there's things that I could work on and think like, oh, this was absolutely done perfectly and no one cares.
Of course. Yeah.
And then there's stuff that I thought, well, not the best performance, could do really well.
Some of those are like, it's a one for me. You're right. You're like, I'm going to get these vocals perfect. I'm going to get like the bass timing perfect on this. And I'm talking about like editing in Pro Tools or whatever for me. Because I love this song so much. I believe in it. I don't care about the money. I don't care about any of this. I want this song to get out by hook or by crook.
Yeah.
It's going to get out. And like the artist did their best, left, and I'm just going to like heavy manufacturing, I call it sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes you just end up caring about the song that much that you want to get it across the finish line.
We have touched a little bit on sort of the educational aspect of when there's young artists in. I think, being somewhat of a teacher sometimes is also part of the roles that we wear as producer, engineer, studio owner, teacher, sometimes therapist. Talk about all the hats that you wear, how you balance them, and which one is your favorite?
Studio owner, engineer, producer, father, lover, husband, janitor, snow removal guy. It's everything. I'm like doing insulation, doing HVAC work, electrical work at times, plumbing. I was doing plumbing this year, and I like that I get to touch kind of everything. Like, it's just like the variety of my life. I don't want to be doing one thing all day. I don't want to be sitting in Pro Tools editing an audiobook all day. I want to be jumping around doing different things. I can't sit still. Having all these things to do, and the fact that it's mine, like having the ownership, it's like, this is mine. The studio's mine. If I sink or swim, it's mine, right? I live and die with it. My family does too. It's just like, it's high stakes, but it's also like the best thing ever. And it's the most like intrinsic motivator you can have. I don't know if that answers your question at all.
Well, what do you find to be the hat you wear the most? Or maybe the most important one?
Studio administrator. Does it sometimes feel that way? Like, just, I don't know what you do, but the first part of my morning is like 2 cups of tea and answering emails and scrolling on reverb.com and, for whatever reason. So decreasingly engineer, it feels like sometimes it's like putting systems in place, managing things, coordinating things. You and I talked a little offline about automation and calendars and bookings and that sort of thing, trying to keep the admin out of it and trying to like allow more art into our lives. But at the same time, we're like, it's not the 70s and 80s and 90s where the labels are forking over tons of money. So like, we're trying to, I always tell people I'm probably in the middle of like 70 songs at any given time. Like, some people I haven't seen in 9 months, and some people I saw yesterday. Mm-hmm. Somewhere in there. So we're juggling so much. And I doubt that the life of an engineer was like that in like 1991. I think it was totally sole focus, like, hey, we're doing a 14-song record. And you can't get a hold of me because I'm at this remote studio in upstate New York. I'm so jealous of some of that stuff, like some of the budget stuff and some of the living like that. At the same time, I get to work on the variety of different things every day. And sometimes it's mixing, sometimes it's mastering, sometimes it's recording. I like that stuff. So it kind of goes back to our original topic, is like always engineer, and then whatever's on the periphery.
Yeah. I'd agree. I think that in terms of most important, it's usually, the studio administrator, just operations, making sure things are going to run smoothly.
It's like GM, right? It's kind of the best way to probably put it.
Yep. You got to make sure that there's still stuff coming in and that the systems are working and you're being as efficient as possible. Quality assurance, is everything up to par? Is it as good as it can be? Yeah, that's a big part of it. But then after that, producer for me, and trying to keep those skills relevant and up to date, and then increasingly, I think, mentoring and coaching,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get, as I hand more and more of my business over to Max, essentially to say, all right, you're going to do sessions today,
Right.
and making sure that he's happy and doing everything. And so, yeah, but it's a lot. And I don't quite have I don't have to be a contractor because I don't own the building. You have to take care of the whole building. So, if there's a plumbing problem, that doesn't necessarily fall into my domain.
Right.
But there's so many little things. There's so many little things that need to be done constantly. And social media manager, I mean, it's everything. But yeah, you just try to juggle it all, keep it going, and then try to automate or delegate as much as you can.
Right. We've had to work so hard outside of like the engineering stuff to like keep businesses afloat in audio engineering these days and like making records. I have a theory that as the industry gets worse, where you and I are getting better at our crafts, God willing, right? Mm-hmm. Like I listened to stuff I did a couple of years ago and I'm like, oh no, I could do so much better, right? I'm sure you have those feelings.
That's always the case.
It's always the case. It should be the case, right? Because we're getting better. But I have a theory that like as the industry gets worse, we're getting better, and we're kind of like we're either plateauing or a slight increase, right? Isn't that hilarious? Like, but if I stayed at my skill set from 2010, I'd be done for, right?
Yeah.
It's forced us to evolve and change and get better at things. It's like, and it's not like a judgment. I mean, it's like a judgment call on late stage capitalism or the music industry, but it's just like what it is. And it's like forced me to be more well-rounded for sure.
I think that's the case on the studio side and on the artist side, because the competition for what a record needs to sound like and how good those songs need to be and how good your online presence needs to be and all of that stuff, like you need to be amazing if you're going to stand out. You have to have something special.
Right.
Although, it's tough. It's tough out there. And I think that's only going to continue to get harder because, which, pros and cons to that, because not everybody needs to be a rock star to be happy. Like there's doing music and just for yourself is a reward in and of itself. Like that's great. And I think people need to remember that. Like it doesn't matter who hears it or does it. Like making that record and with your pals or for yourself is totally worth it without any audience. So the benefits of how things are moving is that you get to do that now. And it's so accessible. Like everybody can get into a studio. Everybody at every level and every talent level, there's a studio for you now. You can have one at home if you want. Like it's all so accessible.
Right. You're
all
not
the
buying
tools.
You're not buying reels of tape and booking
It's just,
80 channel SSL.
You have everything at your fingertips to make art, which is fantastic. But the downside of that has been that the market's been flooded and the competition is stiff. And we're going to only see more of that with AI helping and enabling, whether that's on a songwriting level or on an engineering and producing, mixing and mastering level, where that stuff can just be pretty good right away. And so it's going to raise the bar for how people feel like, how good do you need to be before we're going to care?
Right.
And I think that's going to happen across the board. And so it'll be interesting to see ultimately what that means for the industry. It's too soon to tell, but it's good. It's good for creativity. It might just be bad for, trying to make money. I think there will always be a demand. Music's more popular than ever. There's more people doing it than ever before, right? Because everybody has access to it. And I think there will always be a demand for people wanting to physically pick up their instruments and make music and making a record in a studio is a special experience.
Yeah, be in a room with other humans.
Totally. It's fun. Or if you're a solo artist or whatever, doing that with your producer and like doing it this way is really, really fun, and it's a unique experience. I think there will always be demand for it. But of course, I fully see that there's going to be more people that, whether it's solo artists or bands, that opt to just do it always on their own because they can
bedroom records.
Yeah, because they can get really good at it really fast because the tools will keep getting to be more, the assistance will get to be quite good.
Yeah. Do you oscillate like I do between going, this is the best career and I'm busy and this is awesome, or how many hours do you need to become a commercial airline pilot? How many hours in the air do I need to go do that? Should I go be a Finnish carpenter?
Yeah, I definitely oscillate on that. my opinion on it is that you should just be grateful if you get to do it at all. I don't think anybody deserves, or not deserves, is due, like, they have to, because they worked really hard at it, they should get to do it. You know what I mean? Like, when it comes to music, like, it's a gift. If you work out something where you get to run a recording studio for a while or go on tour for a while or whatever, like, it's a gift. It's really, I know you worked really, really hard for it, but it's still a gift. And it could end at any point because that's just it's broken economics. The industry is totally broken.
Right.
And that's not your fault. Like, if it stops and you end up saying, like, I'm going to become a commercial airline pilot, that's not your fault. Like, it's still
union gig.
Be grateful for what you can. I've seen a lot of musicians come through and have had a lot of conversations on the podcast too, of course, about these kind of things. And it's like, I feel like the people that are the happiest have found a way to fit music into their life.
Totally. They go, I am an anthropologist. I work at the U of M and I make Americana records.
Yes.
Every year I make a new record.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's an EP.
They're really, really happy.
Yes.
And they love it. They may not have much of an audience or whatever. The talent levels could be all over. I've had clients like that are incredibly good. And no one knows
some of your
who they
favorite
are.
songs. Yeah, exactly.
No one knows who they are.
That's one for me.
And
we are going to make a great record together. I don't care who listens.
And then I've met people that have, held really, really tightly to it, which I identify with. I've been that person for sure, that, are really pushing to make it, to be full time, to whatever that means for different people, and what side of the industry they're on. And it's stressful. It's hard because the business doesn't really make any sense.
It makes no sense.
So
there's no middle class.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting...
It doesn't really make any sense. And so you might be fortunate where you were in a position where it worked. You might be working really hard for it and you're super talented. There's all kinds of things, right? But at the end of the day, it's a gift. And you have to just remember that.
Yeah, we get to touch art for a living, which is pretty special. That people let us do that, and then we get paid, and we get to live and have families. Like, that's pretty cool. And I look at, like, how long we've been doing this, and I go, like, yeah, you only need to hold out a couple more years, then we're all kind of dead. You know what I mean? And then you've like lived a life doing exactly what you wanted to do. It's pretty special.
Yeah.
We found a way to make this thing work.
When I reflect on it at this point, I feel like I have accomplished everything I wanted to, in that sense of like, all right, I feel really good about this, and in some ways I'm okay, like, come what may, and totally fine, like, letting the next generation, with Max and Max's next intern and stuff like that, like, pick up. Because I do think I think for studio owners and for obviously for bands too, like, it helps when you're young and you have the energy and you want to live off of a small amount of money, and you're willing to put yourself through that ringer. And
like any art.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always say, like, things are rough, but you could be an abstract painter and things could be really rough. Or it's like painting still lifes. Can you imagine the economics of that?
Yeah.
I mean, we get to feed our families,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not easy. We still work very, very hard for it. And my guess is that for both of us, if we literally did anything else, we'd probably make more money if we put in this much work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the hoops we've had to jump through to make this work at all. Like, we talk about the systems we've put in place to do that stuff in the private sector, right? It's like we'd be killing it. It'd be cool, but I think we'd hate our lives.
Maybe not, because look at our examples earlier.
Look at our songwriters,
yeah, that are very comfortable.
There are spaces, but I just like I've had the corporate job. I've done that thing. I just having the freedom of just being like my own person in this world and having my own baby is so important to me.
Yeah,
and I've lived both, so I get it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very different depending on who you are and what kind of side gig you can find, if that's the route you go, because some are going to be better than others.
Right.
Some are going to allow you to do certain things, that others won't. So it just depends. But I think now more than ever, though, that we do need to have a healthier conversation about, like, it's totally fine if you want to just do it as on the side, because it's going to be the case for so many people.
Totally healthy if you want to have a healthy relationship with your art.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
And not live on the road and
not hustle on social media.
Yeah, exactly. You can just do it for fun. It's okay. You don't have to be going crazy about it, trying to have a million streams on this or, a studio that's fully booked up. Like if you want to have a studio that's in your house and you want to work with 4 projects a year, that's okay.
Mhm.
Do that. You can now. You don't have to be a full-time studio owner. It's not important. There are more important things in life. So like putting food on your table, and
We all sort of end up where we should.
I think so.
With our values and all that.
Yeah. All right. We kind of went on a tangent, but let's get back to I guess one of the main things other sort of topics that I wanted to touch on with you was like specifically working with your engineer or producer when you're in the studio, like communication, what works, what doesn't work. I'll kind of kick this off a little bit because one thing I find myself telling artists a lot is please feel comfortable asking for whatever it is you need.
Mm-hmm.
If something's weird in your headphones, you should say something. Don't just assume that, oh, this must be how it is.
Yes.
Like, say something. If you don't feel comfortable for some reason, if it's too cold, if you're like, oh, this is heading in the wrong direction, but you are just assuming that I must know better, say something, be confident enough to ask questions at all times. You will have a better relationship with the person you're working with. You should treat your engineer and your producer like a collaborator.
Mm-hmm. Not a doctor.
Not a doctor. Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing. I'm constantly checking in with artists. I'll literally go, what's life like in the headphones? How are things? And I had a unique experience a couple of weeks ago where I was recording. I'm not a vocalist. So I'm rarely in the headphones ever at our studio. I was recording a song for our in-laws, for our family, like a spoof song, and I was doing the vocals, which is like insane. I've never been the vocal guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I heard this loud buzz in our headphones when the talkback was engaged. And I realized our talkback mic is sitting on top of a hard drive RAID array with a big fan on it. It's buzzing the whole time. This has been going on. This is years. This is like 5 years of this specific physical setup. And so I cut out some pieces of foam and let this like microphone, our talkback mic, sit on this foam, act as just like a shock absorber, right? And it's way better. It's 90% better. It's like little experiences like that I did not realize I was giving to people inadvertently through the headphones. But no, I'm constantly checking in. The headphones is a big one because you go, oh, people might assume headphones are supposed to be way too loud or way too bright, or the click track's supposed to be way too loud. So I want to, immediately I'm trying to give people autonomy when they come into my studio. Hey, bathroom, fridge, we've got picks here, we've got water here, coffee, tea, here's the headphones. What's it like? Is everything cool? Here's how you build your own headphone mix. Here's our overly complicated looking headphone mixer. It's really not that bad though, and I kind of set it up for you. So don't hesitate if you need anything. And I've got assistant engineers. I'll send some of our shy assistant engineers into the live room. I'll be like, hey, go check in on everyone. Go see how they're doing. Because I know that's like a little reach for them. And it's a personal growth chance for them.
Yeah.
So they get an opportunity to go in there and go. I'll be like, hey, go check in with the drummer. Because sometimes the drummer's further away, ISO, headphones, whatever, and they're a little bit out of the conversation. Go check in with them, see if they need anything. Little things like that to let people know they're seen. And you're right. You shouldn't be afraid to ask for something. You shouldn't be. I'll just tell people don't be afraid to ask what's going on at any given time, because I'm sure you're just like me. You tend to work fast, and even when I'm comping vocals, I'll have the vocalist behind me. I'll be like, hey, I'm just gonna put my head down and go. But if you hear something you like or don't like or want to stop me, just let me know.
Mm-hmm.
This is your song. You have to have buy-in on it. So, but sometimes for expediency, I'll just be like, I'm gonna put my head down and do this. Let me know if you have questions, and you can always push back. Oftentimes when I do a first take with a full band and they all come, that's my favorite, is pressing record in the full band for the first time. They'll all come in the control room to listen back, to be like, do we like this? Sometimes they're not even listening to performance stuff. They're just listening to tones at that time. I'll just turn around and go what can we do to make this better right now? And that's does the snare need to be brighter? Is one of the toms out of tune? Is your guitar need more gain? There's a million variables, right? But I want to hear from them because that's the moment to catch it, right?
Yep.
It's before we really start pressing record.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm constantly checking in. It's you don't assume everyone knows everything. Is kind of what I've learned.
Yeah. I think the other thing too that is partly communication is talking through the philosophy of good enough, best.
What's our threshold?
Where's our threshold
Yes.
going to be? And, for instance, we do a vocal take, we do 3 takes, and depending if somebody's maybe recorded elsewhere before, they might go, okay, cool. And I'll be like, no.
Yeah.
We're going to do this a lot.
We're going to zoom in on everything.
Yeah. And here's why. Here's the philosophy. Or, we've done a lot of takes. We're all really happy, but is it the best it can be? Are you still getting better? Or maybe we've done 3 and the 4th one's getting considerably worse. Let's stop before it gets worse because maybe we're wearing something out and we need to break. I think a big part of it is like being comfortable enough to collaborate when we should push because we haven't reached the top yet. There's actually something better yet. And where we should take breaks, like being okay saying we're not getting better. Let's stop.
Yeah.
Let's stop. And this doesn't have to be, a bad thing. Maybe we'll come back to it, but we just need a break, and keeping it really light that it's not like, we have to stop. This is bad,
Yeah, we're not saving babies. We're pressing record.
Yeah, it's fine. And let's just work on something else and see what happens after an hour break. You might nail it instead of beating us to death.
My version of that's like working on another song, like you said. Let's go shoot some hoops. Let's go listen to the song through the speakers in the parking lot. Let's get everyone outside. Get outside, get some fresh air, get some natural light. Someone smokes. Inevitably, someone smokes because there's bands. Just get outside ourselves is really important in those moments. And I think going back to like finding that threshold is like something I think about more and more because it's a combination of our skills as the producer engineer, their ability on their instrument or their voice, their level of patience, and their budget. It's like some alchemy of all those things to arrive at what our threshold needs to be for that healthy level of aptitude on the record. It's an interesting thing to think about.
It is.
Because my threshold's a lot higher than it was 5 years ago. I'm sure yours is too, because we're all growing. And then there's projects where you're like, my threshold doesn't need to be that high on this because this is a singular thing. This person playing their guitar, this is what it is. And this is what it needs to be. It goes back to kind of talking about what the song needs to be.
I think for me, one of the, we do song packages so often, so budget is already decided. And now it's just about, if I think they can do it better, we go. So I'm trying to read like where I think they're at. But kind of in that conversation or that window, it's a little bit tricky. I think one of the hardest things is figuring out with a young artist where to respect, like this is the vision and this is where they're at. Let's just leave it there because this represents where they're at versus, but I can make it better. And because I could change something and rewrite it, for instance, or redo something that I'm like, yeah, this objectively, it's probably a little better, but it's not theirs anymore.
It's just a facsimile of what you think it should be.
Yeah, like I kind of know
song.
what they're doing here. I think we can make this better. I think that, let's say, in a jury of our peers, most of them will agree with me. But if the artist doesn't, then it's not better. And so at what point am I doing a service to them where I'm like, hey, people are going to like this better if we do it this way versus, no, let's just respect what you wanted to do. And that's a part of that conversation right away. And I pretty much just bluntly will put it out there to them like, hey, how much are you comfortable changing? Do you want to keep it the way it is? Because we'll make the best version of the way it is. Or if you want to see what happens when we change, we can change and we can do somewhere in between. And you can just pick and choose, like a buffet. Like, oh, I like that and I don't like that.
I'll preface a lot of things and go, this might suck and I might be wrong, but what if we try it this way and kind of bring in like wonderment into it? Because I'm like literally wondering, like a childlike wonder, what would happen if we did this or played it this way or added this? And sometimes you end up going, I was totally wrong, and this is not the way it needs to go. And sometimes I want to test that stuff a little bit.
Yeah. But I think one of the most important things is to establish a rapport that everyone can do that. The producer can do that, and so can the drummer who didn't write the song and, it's just wrote their part, and they want to maybe chip in on arrangement or whatever. Like, I really want to encourage everybody that's in the room, can have a say and throw out ideas, and we'll consider them, like maybe some we can test out, maybe some we can't, depending on what the idea is. But I want to keep it open-minded of like, yeah, it's okay. Let's talk about it. And ultimately there has to be some sort of hierarchy of who's got a say, like, and in terms of making decisions. But if everybody can stay like really positive and open-minded of like, yeah, let's that's interesting, but maybe not. Let's try this, and like, I just think that you get to better places. And if everybody feels heard, even if their ideas aren't being used, if they feel heard, like we legitimately tried this idea, then they might really, they'll feel good and they'll keep being positive and a contributor. But you never know what the next idea comes out might be the one, even though you might have shot down the first one of like, that's a little crazy. But if you don't treat it that way, the next time that crazy idea comes out, it's like, that's actually perfect. That's going to fit in the bridge. Awesome.
Right.
And that's so out of left field. And I never would have thought of that.
At least you've got language for it and you've gone through that exercise. So the next time you address something, it's easier. There's always like a quiet member of the band, it's a bass player or a drummer. And I'll like pick them out and be like, hey, Bryce, what do you think? Is this right? Do you feel good about this? Your take on this? Do you feel good about how this is sounding right now? Just to try to pull something out of these people that might be like a little shy about it, or shy about their opinion, or shy about this guy they just met who's like grilling them about the bridge, to try to pull some of that stuff out, to be like, we're all on the equal field here. Like,
yeah.
This is your song. I want it to be right.
And I think it can be hard for younger artists, to walk into your studio and be like, yeah, I'm just going to start telling Tony what's working and what's not working, right?
Totally.
That'd be tough. So, but you have to understand that a lot of the people want that, and we do our best to make that environment, but sometimes it's hard, and we're juggling 1,000 things, keeping the session running. That it's okay to talk up or speak up. It's okay to ask questions. In fact, you should, to some extent. Don't just go through the session thinking, well, I'm not in charge here. Like,
right.
You are. It's okay. Say something. And I promise, and if that's not okay where you're recording, you're probably not in the right place. So I think that's just a huge part of getting good results. Well, we've covered a lot. I don't want to keep you here all night. I appreciate your time. Before we wrap up, if people want to get in touch with you, follow the studio, whatever, where do you like to send people?
MinnehahaRecording.com. Just website, find us, get in touch, come make a record. Yeah. Do our thing, ask questions, learn about the process.
And you do some recording workshops?
We do recording workshops through Community Ed. Yeah, we just finished up a round of 3 of them. They've been awesome. Just like tons of people coming out. That's through Community Ed. We do private workshops as well. If people ever need something or want to learn a little more, they can get in touch.
Cool. If you had to distill one big piece of advice, like your biggest secret for making it a successful experience, what would that be?
God, know your songs. Rehearse your asses off. If we're talking like full band stuff, which is the brunt of what I do, know your songs. And like in a rehearsal space, the rhythm guitar player doesn't always know what the lead guitar player is playing. A lot of stuff comes out in the studio. I mean, we found stuff last night where it was like, the bass was playing something different than the guitar. It's like, no, actually, I walk up to the A on that note. And it's like, you haven't been doing that for 6 months. Things like that come out. You find it, I'm sure.
Yep.
All the time, where things are clashing or things are just weird or things just aren't working. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of objectivity, or sometimes it's literally just being able to hear yourself in a nice microphone and getting out of like a city sound rehearsal space to hear what the hell's going on. So know your songs. Just know those songs. It's the reason we all love these old records. Like, these bands just rehearse their asses off, and just good players.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing the engineering. I'm doing like 7% of the sound. The rest of it's just like fingertips and vocal cords and your bass guitar and your guitar. How that stuff sounds impacts it so much more than the microphone preamp I choose.
Way more. Yeah, 100%.
So as much as I'd love gear and love getting into it, it's like I recognize I'm such a small part of this thing. I'm here to shepherd it through and get everyone through smoothly, but I'm such a small part of the sonic impact of this thing. Really, it comes down to these people in a room making the music.
Yeah. I have 2 things to add to that point, because I think it's a brilliant point. Rehearsal spaces are so loud that you just can't hear what's happening a lot of times. So that is why making that demo is really, really important. So there's 2 ways. Well, there's 2 ways you can get around this. If you're in that very, very loud band, in that crammed rehearsal space, and this might be you, when you make your demo, do it piece by piece. Don't just set up record. Like if you can record just the drums and just the bass and just the guitar, that will reveal a little bit of like, oh, because you're going to listen to them one at a time and you'll actually know. And through doing that process once, you can fix the stuff. Even if you don't intend to record it that way, if you make a demo that way, it will tell you like, oh, I didn't know you were doing that, as you pointed out. Or if that sounds terrible or you don't have the setup for that, do an acoustic version. Have your drummer play on something else or just with their, hands on their legs or whatever, and try to do something that is really, really quiet so that you can actually hear the parts. Don't worry. I know that that's not how the song is going to be done and it's not how it sounds, but that's okay, because what you're looking for are to hear these things that you haven't heard before, and you can go back to the way you're going to do it. But sometimes stepping out of the norm, doing it another way, you might actually get a really cool idea out of that.
Yeah. All great. And I don't ever want to assign people too much homework. So I'm not like, you need to actually multi-track in your city sound space. So like when in doubt, throw up an iPhone, get the iPhone away from the kick drum and the bass amp. They just don't like the low frequencies, and just experiment in the room where it might sound the best, and just give me an iPhone demo and we'll work it out. We will get there.
Yeah.
It's usually like the end of it. It's just like, how much do we have to go through to get there? Right.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, but I like the idea of like, you're kind of deconstructing with the multi-track. If you're doing a multi-track demo,
if you have the ability to it,
you'll understand the song so much more, and you'll understand kind of what we're up against them when we get to the studio.
Yep.
You'll have answered a lot of questions for sure.
Yeah. You will have self-produced to some extent by default when you go through
You're
that.
a producer.
But if it's not like, you don't have the setup for it, then don't worry about it. Just try to get a quieter performance. Just turn down for once. Don't use the full kit if you don't have to, right? And that will teach you something. Do an acoustic version. You'll be like, oh, I didn't realize you were playing that. That comes out. And if all else fails, you can work it out in the studio. That's what we're here for. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. If you found this useful, please share it with a friend, leave a rating, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We'll see you next time.